Oh, I'm very proud of Superman. I think it was such a challenge at the time. It still would be. It was an experience I would always remember. I think you couldn't have had a better director for Superman than Dick Donner. He made it work. At the times, you weren't too certain, and there was a lot of kind of upsets between producer and director. But I remember seeing the crew showing at the Odeon Marble Arch, was at the time was the biggest screen in Europe, and the crew were all asked to bring their families and kids. Sort of probably 2,000 people there, and 3-hour film. There wasn't one time anyone kind of started leaving their seats, and at the end of it you knew that Dick had made it. He'd made the film that held the grown-ups and the kids. It was great storytelling because you knew the whole history from Krypton to being sent off to another planet, being brought up by Glenn Ford, and then becoming Clark Kent and Superman. So you had everything going for it. And what was interesting in the showing, the crew showing, every now and again one of the kids would shout out, I think when Margot Kidder was being buried by the car, don't worry, he'll be here soon. And you knew that it was exactly the comic book, which I don't think any other, certainly I don't think any English director at the time could have managed that type of film. Because Geoff Unsworth had died, and I spent a few weeks at labs, time in it, and then Dennis Coope took over, who had been doing the flying unit and was obviously a much more experienced cameraman than I was. I wasn't a cameraman, so all I knew, having worked with Geoff all those years, I knew the look he was after. I mean, the most challenging thing on the film, because a lot of it was done in camera, was the Krypton scene when all the actors, including Marlon Brando, wore this 3M material, reflective material, and I made up these light boxes to go on the camera, which just sent a ray of light straight down the centre lens into the costume, and of course you could burn them off the screen, and that took a lot of courage because not from me, I designed them and made them, which wasn't really my game, but Geoff then had to decide, on the dimmer, how much we wiped this 3M material so it really glowed. And of course you're dealing with Brando at the time. It was, I think, the most expensive 2 weeks of any actor history. And I thought it took a lot of courage to thinking, how far do I go before you don't realise it is the man you paid the money for. But I thought that bit looked really great, and took a lot of courage, as a cameraman, as a cinematographer, to do that. Because a lot of people played it safe, but I mean, Geoff had proved on Cabaret in 2001 that you don't play it safe if you you really go for it, and it takes courage and also talent, obviously. But I think most directors agreed that Superman was not only action-wise, but it was really good filmmaking, storytelling, which it was, And if you think a lot of the flying we did for real, I mean, it was, and luckily Chris Reeves was such a fit person. I mean, he could do it better than the stuntmen, we nearly always used him. Because he could land with grace, and he got himself from when we first tested him, when you could never believe he could be, he could be Clark Kent, because you could never believe he could be Superman, because he was quite skinny, but then they spent like several months building him up, and I thought he was, first he was a very, very nice man, and I remember when we were in New York shooting, and we're doing this, I think it's when he got the burglar, anyway, I was up on a crane next to him, and we had to wait because the theatre crowd had just turned out, Broadway, so it's about 11 o'clock at night, and suddenly they looked up and they saw Superman there, and they all started shouting. And these are a theatre crowd, these are kind of quite posh people. Hey, and they're all shouting out at him. And I looked at Chris and I said, I bet if I said to you now, fly, you'd fly, because he suddenly realised at that moment, I think, that this is working. I am Superman, And it was very, very sad what happened to him, because he was I say, a really charming young man. He brought he brought joy to it. I mean, he brought this wonderful thing that Dick Donner is. He's like a big bear and he hugs people, and he understood exactly what the public would want, you know, whether it's grown-ups or kids. And I thought he did a superb job. And also he had the touch, you know, with Glenn Ford when we did the early stuff, when little baby landed, and all those scenes had a kind of a touch and quality to it. He, I thought, brought the best out of Margot Kidder, who's she was lovely, crazy but lovely, and totally blind. You know, without her glasses, she'd bump into walls and go the wrong way. But Dick would just kind of handle her. Gene Hackman. I mean, Gene's always Gene. I mean, I did 3 films with Gene, and he's great. I mean, he's a force of nature, and the kind of guy you don't want to screw with. But I thought he was great. I thought he kind of carried off the comedy just right, and Ned Beatty was just one of the delightful people, you know. So I think, and then of course we had all the Terry Stamp and Jack Halloran, and the plan Jeff and I always had, and his wife Maggie, who was continuity, incredible lady, was one day, you know, I would direct, he would photograph, and she would produce. That was kind of the dream. And when I came back from Africa, Jeff was doing tests in Brittany with Polanski, and he called me and he said, do you want to come? I said, no. I said, I can't go back operating now. I said, but I'll come out next weekend and we have the weekend together, you know, because he's like a father figure to me. So I planned to go out to Brittany that following weekend, and then I got a phone call a couple of days later saying that he'd been found dead in his hotel room. It's kind of, destroyed me, because a man I'd known all my professional life, you know, and the thought he died alone in a hotel room was really terrible, you know. So, no, there's no question of me photographing at that time. I mean, even Dickie Attenborough, because he'd done several films with Jeff, and I'd done a couple, including Bridge Too Far. And when Gandhi came up one time, Dickie just said, would I think about photographing it? I said, no. I said, because I'd always feel, what would Jeff have done? How would Jeff have done it? I said, and I don't really wish to have that pressure, you know. So probably stupid, but I'd got the Oscar, or maybe. But the composition, the way Jeff and I worked, I did all the camera work. I worked out the shots, so things like composition, angles. Jeff was always there, but in those days also, photography wasn't as simple as it can be now. You had to, you know, the film was quite slow. On Cabaret, we had zoom lenses on, so you had to have plenty of light, but not look like there's plenty of light. So I knew I could never be as good as Jeff. I knew what he wanted. I knew sometimes how to do it, but I thought, no, leave it out. You know, he's a one-off, and took a lot of courage. Cabaret took a huge amount of courage, because the producers hated it. They wanted to sack Jeff. They wanted to sack Fosse. They wanted, as they said, they wanted a Hollywood Barbra Streisand type look. Well, Cabaret did not have that look in any respect, and so the pressure was very heavy on both of them. So I thought, you know, he's my hero, and that's him, and I would go off another direction. I'll blow up helicopters and have men greased up with very big muscles. But I did do Yentl with Barbara. We'd finished shooting in Canada, and about to wrap, we had the wheat field, and the mother's, you know, out lonely in the wheat field. And once again, this is before wire cams and all this, you know. And I thought, there's a shot here, and I went back early, and we had the Chapman crane, which would have an extension, so you can, and I said to Dick, I think we can swing all the way round through the wheat and then go over her like that. And he said, but no, you're doing half a circle, how can you make that a straight line? And I said, well, that's my problem with the wheels, you know. So, and that's a shot that, simple as it is, it was perfect for the moment. You know, nowadays you'd have, you know, a drone or a thing and do a much bigger thing. But this was something that, and the great thing about Dick, you know, said, go for it, kid, you know. And more, if it's a fuck up, it's your fault, you know, because Dick could always put you down at the end. I know it's a simple shot. It kind of said, to me, it was a challenge to do technically, to make it look like a straight line, but also it was poetically right, because this is little old lady lost her husband, Superman's off to save the world, and she's alone in the wheat field. So I quite enjoyed that.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe to see more retrospectives and commentaries. Also click on the bell to be notified of the latest reviews. If you want access to exclusive videos and to watch my content a few days before it's on YouTube, you can head on over to my Patreon. Thank you very much.